Welcome everyone to the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for October 20th, 2025. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. Let's get right to it. Last week we had the shocking angle where Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed turned against the world champion Seth Rollins. Paul Heyman aligned himself with the Vision. We had Adam Pearce in the ring, the general manager. He was immediately interrupted by the arrival of the Vision. Bron Breakker held the championship. They came to the ring. Adam Pearce said because of them, what they did to Rollins, Rollins had major surgery, will be out of action for a while. That is what Adam Pearce said. And because of that, Rollins has officially been stripped of the World Heavyweight Championship. He asked for the championship from Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker wanted Pearce to say please. Pearce did say please, and then Bron handed it over to Paul Heyman. Heyman then handed the title to Pearce, and then Pearce took his leave. So yes, Seth Rollins is no longer the World Heavyweight Champion as expected. It is a legitimate injury. Seth Rollins injured his shoulder at Crown Jewel doing that coast-to-coast flying headbutt to Cody Rhodes. During that stream, I was very critical of that spot. I thought it was too over-choreographed. It's a shame. They tried to do something unique and different, and it put Rollins on the shelf, potentially missing WrestleMania depending on the damage to his shoulder. Let's get to a couple of super chats, and then we'll discuss the rest of the promo. Jeremy Dorset with some interesting trivia for people out there. Thank you, Jeremy, for the $10.44 super chat. Much appreciated. Jeremy says, almost 10 years to the date that Seth Rollins tore his ACL and was stripped of the WWE title. 10 years later, separated shoulder and is now stripped of the World Heavyweight Championship. Not only that, but 10 years after winning Money in the Bank for the first time. Rollins cashed in Money in the Bank 2015 at WrestleMania 31, and then had to relinquish it due to injury around this time, October, November. Then 10 years later, he wins Money in the Bank. He cashes it in again at WrestleMania. Well, not WrestleMania, SummerSlam this time, but same thing. He cashes in Money in the Bank, wins the world title, only to have to relinquish it again. Interesting how that played out. Thank you again, Jeremy, for bringing that up. And shout out to good old JM Jeff Meacham. Jeff threw in $5. Thank you, Jeff. Much appreciated. Jeff says, first time catching both Raw and the recap live in a while. Decent outing all around for the A's show. Looking forward to watching the No DQ review tomorrow. Yes, we got the No DQ review coming up Tuesday night at 7 Eastern. Make sure you guys check that out. We'll talk more about what's coming up next and what's been happening with Rollins, I'm sure. And check out the Jeff Meacham Network. Again, shout out to Jeff. Shout out to Jeremy from earlier. Dave Scheffler, I will get to your super chat in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. Same thing with Caleb. I appreciate the super chats, everyone. Dave and Caleb, I will get to your super chats when we talk about the main event. But let's get to the rest of the segment that opened the show. Paul Heyman questioned why people hate the Vision. Heyman said he understands that people watch WWE Unreal and they see the Vision as the villains, as the heels. Heyman said he didn't betray Roman Reigns and CM Punk because of Rollins. He pulled those moves because he knew Bron Breakker was the future of WWE, and he knew that Bronson Reed was better than Roman Reigns. And he said that Seth Rollins could not shoulder the responsibility of leading WWE. He also called Rollins a bum shoulder bitch and said that Rollins' spot was taken from him by Bron Breakker. Now, I had an issue with this segment, and TJS brought it up here. Shout out to TJS, who's in the chat room. I didn't like Heyman using the term heel. Look, I'm all for behind the scenes videos when it's not acknowledged on the main shows. You know, if you watch a movie, the DVD, some people are like, what's a DVD? But the DVD would have extras, and they might have a behind the scenes making, or there might be a little mini documentary. You know, that stuff is interesting. You watch a movie and then you might want to know some of the details of how it was produced. So I don't have a problem with the show Unreal, but I don't like Unreal being referenced in the kayfabe promo and them using the term heel on the show in a kayfabe environment. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think they should be doing it. You know, every once in a while, if you want to break the fourth wall for a special moment, like CM Punk with the pipe bomb, it worked there. But I didn't like it in this scenario. So I agree with TJS on that one. That was a bit cringe. But overall, the segment was good. I think they did a solid job of setting up the battle royal to figure out who's going to face CM Punk at Saturday night's main event. Bron Breakker looked very intimidating. I liked that stuff. Shout out to Building Nexus, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Building Nexus. Says, think the future of WWE stories probably depends on whether they think Bron Breakker is ready or not. And rest in peace, Ace. Bron Breakker might have been in the plans in 2026 to be the top guy, and they would give him the big push then. Now it feels like with Rollins out, they're gonna move at a faster pace and speed up the process. So whether he's ready or not, as they say, you have to strike when the iron's hot, and Bron Breakker has the momentum. He has the youth, and he's got the opportunity now. So whether he's 100% ready or not, and I feel he is, he's shown that he can perform at a high level. I think you got to go with Bron Breakker and take advantage of the situation and turn a negative into a positive. But yeah, I think they are going to pull the trigger on him, and he's going to get that massive push faster than he was initially going to. All right, let's get to our tag team titles match, which was Finn Balor and JD McDonough of the Judgment Day going up against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee, a very random tag team. Now, before the match, we had more Judgment Day dissension. They're doing a very slow burn of this, probably because they want Liv Morgan back before we really get the implosion of Judgment Day. And Dominik questioned if Balor and JD could take care of AJ Styles, even though he already beat Styles twice. And they were not too amused by this. We had the tag match, and this was very good. Back and forth here. Dragon Lee got in a lot of offense. He did the double stomp to JD McDonough. And then Balor pulled JD to the outside. Lee came over the top with a dive onto both of them. Then Styles tagged in, hit the forearm to Balor, but JD broke it up. And then JD McDonough did the moonsault. Balor hit the coup de grace to Styles. And then Dragon Lee actually had to fly over, basically jump over JD McDonough to make the save. And then Finn Balor attempted the Styles Clash, which Wrestling 101, when the bad guy tries the finisher of the good guy, that's usually the beginning of the end for him. And sure enough, Styles countered Balor, hit his Styles Clash, and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. Brand new tag team champions. And I know some people are like, man, this is weird to put the titles on a random team like this, but I think Judgment Day as champions were a complete bust. And I have no problems with getting the titles off of them at this point. Seriously, they had like 2 title defenses in 3 months. It was ridiculous. I'm all for Styles having one more championship run. If not the IC title, he gets to be a tag team champion. And it also elevates Dragon Lee. This is, I believe, the first singles title Dragon Lee, or not singles title period that Dragon Lee has held on the main roster. He gets a rub with AJ Styles. So I'm all for that. I'm happy for Dragon Lee. Styles gets one more title reign. You get the titles off Judgment Day. That reign was a bit of a bust. I'm totally fine with this. I have no problem with it whatsoever. We had Pyro going off. They had their celebration. Then we had a backstage segment with the Usos. And they were talking about the Battle Royal. And Jimmy said he's going to be going in on everybody, even his brother. And Jay said he understood, every man for himself. And they shook hands. So they were both in the Battle Royal. Then we had Dirty Dominik Mysterio going up against Rusev for the Intercontinental Championship. Dominik tried to go right after Rusev, but Rusev was just too much. Rusev dominated for a while, and then Penta showed up. Penta prevented Dominik from trying to escape. Rusev ended up sending Dominik into Penta, so Penta had words with Rusev. Rusev punched Penta. Dominik took advantage of this. He tried to hit the 619 with the bell hammer in his boot, but that did not work. The referee caught him, and Rusev took the hammer. He was going to use it. He was outraged, but the referee stopped him. And while the referee was getting rid of the hammer, Dominik gave him a low blow and hit a 619 and a frog splash to retain his championship. Rusev takes another loss, but of course we had the shenanigans. It was a good match, solid. And then afterwards, Penta attacked Rusev afterwards. Shout out to good old JM Jeff Meacham, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Jeff. Says, do you think we actually get Dominik versus John Cena in San Diego? Well, thank you for the super chat. And yes, it feels like we are going to get that match. Dominik has even teased it in interviews. He says, if John Cena wants some, come get some. It makes sense, right? San Diego. John Cena should face somebody from San Diego. Why not Dominik Mysterio? I mean, you could maybe do Rey Mysterio if Rey was recovered by then, but really, it should be Dominik because we'll never get another chance to have that match. It'll be the only opportunity Dominik has to wrestle John Cena. And plus, Cena has never been Intercontinental Champion. So why not? I think we'll get it. I think that's going to be the second to last match for Cena. We had Becky Lynch one-on-one with Maxxine Dupri. This match was for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Becky with the cheap shot right off the bat and dominated a good part of the match, but then Maxxine made her comeback. She's really been showing a lot of progress here. She launched off Becky's back and did a leg drop. That was a cool looking move. She put on the ankle lock. Becky countered that, and then Maxxine reversed it back into an ankle lock. Then Maxxine came off the top with a crossbody. Becky kicked out of that. And at this point, Becky decided to leave with her title, but Maxxine went after her. However, Becky struck Maxxine with the championship, causing a disqualification. Maxxine wins again, although it was by DQ. So Becky Lynch is still your women's champion. And Becky kept attacking her afterwards. They're really building up Maxxine here. Becky didn't get her win back or anything. And it was another good match. Maxxine definitely seems to be building up a little bit of momentum creatively. So we'll see what happens with this. I don't know if Maxxine may eventually get the title if they really want to pull the trigger on her. But yeah, they protected Maxxine here, and this could set up yet another match with them. And yes, we had 3 title matches in a row. But you know what? It's the peak of football season. It's the peak of baseball season. It's a lot of options. There are a lot of options out there for people. And WWE has to really fire on all cylinders right now with all the competition. Shout out to Dave Scheffler, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Says, I liked Becky and Paul's talk backstage. Yes, we will get to that. This match with Maxxine was not the only time we saw Becky on the show. We'll discuss that in just a few moments. Thank you again for the super chat, Dave. Let's get to the next segment, which was a backstage video with the Kabuki Warriors. They gloated about taking out Rhea Ripley, said Rhea had to pay for tearing the family apart, and they said that they're looking forward and they're wanting the tag team titles. They are putting the women's tag division on notice, which I'm fine with. You know, we really can use more teams in the mix for the tag team titles. We then had Stephanie Vaquer versus Roxanne Perez, which was all right, but it felt a little bit off to me. They tried to do that spot where they both bridge up at the same time, and they screwed that up, and then they tried it again and still couldn't get it right. And Stephanie did her Devil's Kiss move. We had Raquel out there with the distractions. But despite that, Stephanie was able to get rid of Raquel. She ended up doing a crossbody to both of them on the outside. Stephanie got Roxanne back in the ring and picked up the victory with the Angel's Wings. After the match, we had an attack 2-on-1 against Stephanie, and Nikki Bella made the save. Nikki Bella came out there, helped out, and Roxanne and Raquel eventually fled. The ring was cleared, and backstage, Paul Heyman was talking to Adam Pearce, and Pearce revealed that Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed were out of the Battle Royal. And if Heyman wanted them back in, he would have to say please. Heyman did say please, but Pearce responded with a firm no. He slammed the door shut, and just when Paul Heyman's night was perhaps not getting any worse, Becky Lynch confronted him, and Heyman said he had no choice. The Brons conspired because of the injured shoulder of Seth Rollins, and Heyman said he was sorry about what happened, but there's still a vision that includes Becky Lynch, and she was having none of it. She called him a penguin-faced prick, and she said that Seth was using Heyman, and Heyman is nothing without Rollins. And she said that when he comes back, he's going to kill the Brons, but He's not going to kill Heyman, and Heyman's going to wish that Rollins had. It was a good segment, as Dave Scheffler pointed out. It was intense, and I like that they did this. Even though Becky is a heel, you really needed this segment to at least just wrap this up, finish this part of the story. Becky just gives him a piece of her mind and says that Rollins will be coming for the Vision, and then Becky goes back to her own thing. I thought this was well done, and I think you needed to do it. You can't just ignore it. Becky's got to say something, but you also don't want to turn Becky back babyface. So you just do this little segment here, and then they move on from it. I thought it was well done. Backstage, Lyra Valkyria was confronted by Bayley, and Bayley said she had an idea. She had a surprise for Lyra Valkyria, and that will be next week on Monday Night Raw. Then Paul Heyman gave a pep talk to the Brons. They were upset about being removed from the Battle Royal, but Heyman had to bring up how Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, Roman Reigns all listened to Heyman and ended up having great success for it. So basically, he's telling them to be patient. We had our Battle Royal, but before that, I forgot to mention that Stephanie Vaquer thanked Nikki Bella for having her back. She said that she owed Nikki one, and Nikki just gave her a little bit of warning that anybody can take her out. Now, I don't know if this is maybe a tease for the future that Nikki, what they say, keep your friends close but your enemies closer. If Nikki's buttering up to Stephanie only to try and cash in on a title shot, we'll see. But I feel like this is planting the seeds for an eventual Nikki turn. I just have that feeling. So we had our main event, which was the Battle Royal. Usos came out first. They got the big grand entrance. CM Punk was on commentary for this. The winner will face Punk at Saturday night's main event. We are guaranteed a new WWE World Champion at Saturday night's main event. There you go. Entertaining Battle Royal. We had Otis and Ivar going at it early. Battle of the big men. But Rusev was the one that got rid of Otis. Otis first person eliminated via Rusev. Rusev also tossed out Tozawa, so he got a little bit of momentum back after losing earlier. He went after Penta, but then Dominik took advantage and eliminated both Rusev and Penta. Sheamus, who unfortunately still has his Death Rebel music. I don't know if that report was completely accurate, that WWE stars are being granted their request for music changes. Maybe we'll get written in my face sooner than later, but wasn't on this show. You would think it would be, since he's been gone for a while, and you could have just transitioned back to written in my face for this show. Sheamus eliminated Ivar with the white noise on the apron. Crowd popped for that. Usos worked together. They took out El Grande Americano. Sheamus got out JD and Balor, but then Kofi Kingston got rid of Sheamus, and then Styles got rid of Dominik. Referees didn't see it, though. And the match continued. Another commercial break. We had Usos, Dominik, Styles, and LA Knight, as the final five. Now, Jimmy saved Jay from elimination, and that was important here. The Usos double super kicked AJ Styles, sent him out, and then Jimmy Uso tried to eliminate LA Knight, had him halfway over the top, and that's when Jay took advantage of an opportunity and eliminated LA Knight and his brother Jimmy after Jimmy helped out Jay and prevented him from being eliminated. Then Jay finally eliminated Dominik to pick up the win. Jimmy Uso was not too happy about this. So the plot has definitely thickened here between the Usos. And CM Punk got in the ring, had a face-off with Jay. It is official. Saturday night's main event, CM Punk versus Jay Uso for the World Championship. New champion guaranteed. Now let's get to the Super Chats. Caleb Jacobs sent in $2 and says, I say CM Punk wins at Saturday night's main event. I could really see it going either way. I know people have been talking about a Jay heel turn, but also keep in mind earlier, Jimmy said it was going to be every man for himself and he would take out Jay if he had to. So that is something to consider. I could see Jimmy potentially being involved in this finish. What if Jimmy accidentally costs Jay the match? I mean, there's a lot of different ways this can go. It's a tough one to call. I don't think it's a guarantee that Punk wins. I really do think this one is like 50-50. It's very close. Punk, winning would wrap up his story, finish his story, so to speak. But you would think that Punk would have to go through a little bit more adversity to finally win the world title. And I really don't think he was going to win it if Rollins was champion. So we'll have to see what they come up with here. And Dave Scheffler sent in $2. Thank you, Dave. He says, all I have to say is why Jay? Well, again, I think that Jimmy brought up earlier that it was every man for himself. And yes, Jimmy did save Jay, but, he didn't have to do that. And Jay just took advantage of an opportunity. So it's interesting. It's definitely a scenario where some people might side with Jimmy, some might side with Jay. I still don't know where they're going with this. I mean, now that Rollins is out of the equation, this could go in a totally different direction because I really did think that the Usos, Roman Reigns, were going to be on this team against the Vision, and we still could get that. But yeah, I mean, they probably are trying to figure out a game plan now that Rollins is out. So it really could go in any number of directions. And I'm very intrigued by it. There's definitely a lot of intrigue in this, and we'll see where they go. And that was the end of Raw, which I thought was a very good show this week. I really enjoyed the Battle Royal. We had a tag team title change. We had some solid matches, good crowd in Sacramento. I will give it 7 out of 10. Definitely an above average episode of Raw. Memorable with the Seth Rollins announcement and setting up Saturday night's main event. I enjoyed Raw. I definitely think it's worth watching. And we'll see what happens at Saturday night's main event. NoDQ.com will have live coverage. And I will be on here after Saturday night's main event to recap the show. That is November 1st. We still have a few weeks left. I mean, what is it? Little less than 2 weeks to go. Still some time. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest news and rumors. And as Jeff Meacham mentioned earlier, we got the No DQ review Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. We'll be talking more about what's going on now as we head into Saturday night's main event. Have a great night, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. Say yes to NoDQ.com. And I will see you all next time.